Hey there, YouTube friends, and welcome to a mini episode of Beginner Heights Amusement Parks, the tutorial series where we work together to build a park together, and I give you all the tips and tricks I've learned over the many years of playing Planet Coaster. Today is a smaller time-lapse only episode where we are going to dive in to how to use non-gridded pieces in unique and interesting ways. And if you are really looking to expand your building techniques, this is going to be one you're not going to want to miss. Advanced building using non-gridded pieces takes more time, but it is way worth it to get specific results that you just can't get using in-game pieces certain ways. So if you are interested in learning how I built this, Las Bandaras from Six Flags Fiesta Texas, then stick around and enjoy this time lapse. I'm maskedbandit, and I am so glad you are here. Alright, so like I said, we are making Las Bandaras a hat store, basically exactly the same from Fiesta Texas. Here's a picture of it right here. And I'll have this in the corner so you can see how we're building. And this building I decided to make with absolutely zero gridded pieces. Which, we found out on Bro Nation, if you are suffering from the bug where your Control Z stops working, your undo button stops working, it's probably has something to do with using gridded pieces, there are these crazies that have never used a gridded piece after hundreds of hours of play, have never had that bug happen. Meanwhile, I've had it happen quite regularly. So, I don't know, maybe it's gridded pieces. But here we are building a really narrow, curved, angled wall. You saw there, what I did is, one of the big things that's important for me when building non-gridded walls is using the snap to angle feature, right? Especially if you're going to be making angles or arches. That's an easy way to make sure that you are keeping everything symmetrical, because obviously that's going to be really important when it comes to architecture and things like that. Unless that's not what you're going for. Like, for example, if you've watched the Bikini Bottom series I'm making, all of that wonky catterwampus stuff can only be done with non-gridded wall pieces. In previous game, in Planet Coaster 1, we had to use windows. There were windows with stucco wall texture, so we had to flip them around. And if you wanted to have them be double-sided, you would have to double them up, and the piece count just got out of control. One of the nice things about Planet Zoo is they incorporated these non-gridded wall pieces, and then to see that here in Planet Coaster 2 has been really, really helpful. So I know they can seem intimidating, and they're really not necessary unless you're really trying to do very specific things. The reason I picked it for this building is that curved angle there. That is the main reason I decided to do the non-gridded structure, and then I decided to make a point of it and not use gridded pieces. So here we are, and so here I decided, I was pondering whether or not to replace some of the building pieces, but I thought that would be way more complicated than just doing a mini overlap of a couple pixels. One of the great perks with the Planet Coaster, the Planet games, is this nesting idea, where you can nest things in different as little as just a couple pixels to make it look flush, almost like you'll notice here the blue wall pieces I'm using are not flush. I stuck them out a little bit intentionally to create a little bit of a beveled edge. That is a thing you can do depending on how far out you nest or don't nest the things. It's really important to create some depth and texture to things that otherwise wouldn't have it. Meanwhile, I've been building a custom cornice here based on our image, and that is just wooden posts scaled differently and nested inside each other. I think the big hint when using non-gridded pieces is probably the whole idea of nesting. Using them, because they're not on a grid, you can do whatever you want with them. Play around with it. One of the big things that we love to tell new builders on Bro Nation is to download something and blow it up. Download a building that looks way crazy, something that you would aspire to build, and then take it and just blow it up. Enter the building, pull it apart, see how they're doing what they're doing. Take note of the pieces and see what sort of scaling they're doing. Things like that are so beneficial. I've gotten as good as I have by watching other, not to say I'm good, but I've gotten to where I have by watching people who are better than me and stealing their ideas. Point blank. That is what that is. That's kind of why I am doing this series, It's a way for me to be like, here, steal from me, please, please, please. I would love if you use Twitter. I know that's I'm kind of like not really hot on Twitter. I might use the Blue Sky. Is that the new thing? Anyway, I would love for you to share with me if you're building along with me in this series. What are you doing here? I would love to see what tips and tricks you've learned from me applied to your own projects, even if you are just building along with me and kind of recreating what I'm building. That would be wonderful. I'd love to see what you are all doing with this series. So here we are building some roof here. We are using the planks. These wooden planks, we've used them in the last episode, I believe. And here I just scale them up, and oh my goodness, they just make absolutely perfect. They make wonderful roof segments. And then on the structure here, from our inspiration, you can see that there was another roof on top of it. This would be the one that is actually like the actual roof. And so this is perfect use for art shapes. Again, all non-gridded structures. I could use the wall pieces as roofs, as ceilings. There's, again, I think I mentioned it in the previous episode, there is no rule that you have to use things based on what they're named. Anything can be anything. And especially when you are building off the grid in these more advanced techniques, you really need to start looking at pieces as shapes and textures. I've seen people use these fonts as wild itty-bitty pieces when building sculptures and things like that. The creativity is absolutely off the chart. If you are actually looking for inspiration to up your build, I highly encourage you to click the link in the description to join Bro Nation. And not just join Bro Nation, but get involved in Bro Nation. Post your work. We are friendly. I promise. If you come in looking for help, we are more than welcome to help. We love enthusiastic new members who are willing to learn and willing to put in to show off what they've been working on. And we are more than happy to guide you if that is what you are looking for. We are also more than happy just to look at cool stuff. So if you want to be if you're looking for a Planet Coaster 2 community, I highly recommend mine and Mike's community, Bro Nation. We've been around, I think, since 2018 or so. We've been around a long time. Here we are working a little bit on the interior, and I have pulled an amazing gift shop clutter set. This is by Plastic Swans, and I will put the code in on the screen so you can download these because these are just fantastic. There are a lot of good ones. Nerd Chacho has made another one, but his are more water park specific, but they're amazing nonetheless. And this is, in the next episode, I think I'm going to do a talk on interiors, how to best do interiors. Here's my sneak peek to that. Steal from the workshop. When it comes to interiors, finding stuff that's this good, I have no qualms. Now, I'm not going to use, one thing I'm probably never going to do is I'm never going to use the workshop for buildings. I'd like to create all my own buildings. That's just for my own personal playstyle. But when it comes to interior things or details, little things, if someone has done such an amazing job, I think it is absolutely within reason to use them. And look at how easily this interior comes together. So this is all it takes. And hopefully, if you want to, I would recommend, I will put the park up on the workshop, and there will be a link in the description below. And you can go and, like I said, you can take this building and you can explode it. You can explode any of the buildings that I've built so far in this series. And you will even see a coaster idea that I was messing around with today. I'm not sure if that's going to sit there, but you know, I just throwing spaghetti at the wall at this point. Here we are doing some lighting. I'm very pleased with how this turns out. This silly lighting might be my favorite part of the entire build. I think it really turned out very, very well. As we fiddle with this structure here and try and get everything on the same building group so it's easier to work with. But here we are using a Planco light, Planet Coaster wall light, scaled down to make some track lighting. And oh my goodness, this was so easy. And I think it notched up the realism in quite a powerful way. So I think that's another tip from me to you is what are you willing to spend? What's going to get the most bang for your buck when it comes to spending the time, right? Like, I didn't want to spend the time doing the interior stuff because there was already great stuff on the workshop. But when it come to this lighting, there was nothing quite like it on the workshop for me. So I was very keen that I was willing to spend the time, and that amount of time spent was absolutely worth it considering the amazing results. And it is honestly a-okay. There are people who build and they spend hours and hours and hours, as I am using some wall pieces here for a ceiling. There are people who spend hours and hours and hours building one building, and that's just not how I choose to spend my time. And part of me is jealous that I can't dedicate that amount of time because it's just fantastic. But at the same point, I've kind of had a reckoning over the course of my content creation career where I have realized that I only have so many hours in a week to build, and what am I willing to spend time on? And it's okay to say I'm only willing to spend my time on X, Y, and Z. And maybe this style of custom structures isn't even what you're willing to spend. And to that, I say, hey, whatever floats your boat, however you get enjoyment out of this game is absolutely correct for you. Don't let anyone ever tell you or make you feel like you have to play this game a certain way. And with that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and I'll see all of you for the next long form episode of Beginner Heights Amusement Park. Take care, everyone, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.